please be quiet, because I'm about to share a blueprint for fantastic part writing with you. But honestly, I don't want the world to know this, because it's so great, you know. I'm loving these silly introductions. I hope you don't mind. Well, let's jump right into the blueprint. Take one section, can be the woodwind section, strings or brass. I write something for that section. Usually that's the main part of the sketch. And then I look at what I did in the other sections and I really imagine how interesting is that part for the musician. That is what I do, literally. I would go back and look at, for example, let's pretend Mark wrote the brass first right here, since that's a brass-heavy moment, as the whole piece is, of course. But let's just pretend this came first. Then to figure out the woodwinds, I would look back and look at those lines. Like, okay, is that interesting for the piccolo player? And then I realized, okay, he had a pretty high pace here and lots of notes. So let's give him a rest. And this is how I decide about contrast, so that this comes down right now to, these whole notes. Then let's have a look at the strings. Same thing. In this case, strings and woodwinds, they go hand in hand in that particular moment. But also, let's say Mark continued with the brass section and finished the piece in the brass section first, since that's a very wide space that he covered here in the range. So let's see what we can do around that. Okay, so we have right here just the support of the bottom end, which is important. If you have those high energetic brassy moments, you don't want to lose the double basses usually. And the cellos, they are an option. Usually you can just double them. If you also go with your DVC right here, then I would bring in the cellos for sure. I would probably also bring in right here the bass instruments from the woodwind section. And then I would again have a look at what was happening before. So at this point, when we move closer to the final chord structure, you want everybody has a part to play. Because if you imagine you were sitting in the orchestra playing the viola, let's say, and you look at the guy next to you, which is the violin player, he has a great part to play and he has fun and everything. You look to the other side and there is the cello player. He has something to play and he's happy. And you are sitting there waiting for the piece to end. And this is literally, you feel useless as a musician. For that reason alone, I would write a part that is interesting. I look at the whole section in terms of energy and how interesting it is. Also in the context of the whole piece, so that I don't just highlight the strings over 8 minutes and have the woodwind play a sideline only. Even if we use samples, I know it's a different setting and everything, and I agree it's not that important with samples, but still the overall result, I truly believe, will be better from an orchestration point of view, because you literally created something that would sound great if played with a real orchestra. That is what I would do. And if you look at the strings, this is interesting for everybody. Also, if you look at the parts right here, this is a plain doubling of the whole line. But guess what? If you did not have a part to play as a viola player and you look around and everybody plays that line and you obviously have a sense for orchestration if you play inside an orchestra, since you've listened to so many pieces, right? And you get an idea of what is happening in those various sections. You figure out pretty quickly that you should have played that line too. It would have been better for the overall orchestration. Obviously, the musicians, they won't dare talk to the composer like, well, guess what? You should have put in a part right here. They usually don't do it because they get paid for nothing, which is fine if they don't have to play. If it's a gig, they accept the money and they leave, which is fine. But if you are lucky, then you find a musician who actually tells you, well, guess what? This is not really good writing, especially in this epic orchestration right here. So if you look at whatever instrument, everybody has a part to play. Everybody. There is not one single instrument at the final chord who can't chime in and make this a great experience. That is really important, especially with this big orchestrations. So even if you just double that line that happens in other sections, please do it. That should be your low-level go-to option. If you know how to write interesting parts, then you won't necessarily double, because usually you only double for color or for power. And in this case, it's power. But if you hear harmony in one section, usually that's enough. And the perfect example for that is right here, where you have all the brass. That is, in this case, harmony. So you don't need more harmony. So that is now a choice. That is a choice of coloration. There are other solutions to that. You can write a side line, but guess what? Mark already has one line. He has a side line, so no need to have a third line in there. So yes, that's a choice. And no need to have another motor, because we just came from a motor over 8 bars. So let's bring in contrast. What I also do in the orchestration, and I'm pretty sure Mark does not need to do that because he is just way more experienced. I listen to all of those sections separately when I consider my work done. And then I realize, okay, this transition is not fluent, or at this point, the section does not sound complete, or I feel it's missing something here, or I run risk that the musicians will get mad at me because I maybe have not enough breathing rest points, or maybe the part is just boring that I wrote. And this is stuff that reveals itself if you isolate all of those sections. Just as a quick example, let's go with the strings, because the ear won't get so fatigued by the strings. And you will hear how they change, and they will sound complete in all of those different moments. Yeah, it actually works. If you look at the final chord structure in the strings, this is really just hitting on the root tone and scale tone 5 actually. But it sounds like one tone only, because scale tone 5, as you know, and the root tone, they're very close to each other in terms of the overtones, and they meld together. That's your power chord. There is no need to bring in harmony, because have a look at the brass. They cover the full harmonic range. There is no need to bring the strings in and reduce their strength by going into divisi or whatever. Just let them stress the final root tone. And a pretty similar thing happens right here in the Woodwinds. So if you just listen to the final chord structure. Yep, just E's and B's. But it's enough, because this is exactly what is needed to make the brass section sound fuller, and not just to create this gray, muddy sound because everybody plays the same stuff, which would in this case be harmony. You know that we are not only about teaching fantastic interval theory, but we also try to, well, entertain a little bit here and there. And if you like this style, then please smash that subscribe button. And also check out the virtual campus. And if you happen to bump into me in one of those rooms, please don't be shy and say hi. It was a great rhyme, and I hope to see you the next time. Wow, that's even better. Bye. That was really stupid.